For those of you who missed my introduction, came in late. My name is Daniella Barboza. I'm just going to start off with a little introduction of who I am and what I do. Professionally, I do have a Master's of Library and Information Science from Rutgers. I also work for this little company called News Corp, and I've been with the Dow Jones part of the business for 10 years. Back when it used to be Factiva, which was the Dow Jones and Reuters side of the business. I have a star next to the group that I work for, which is the Dow Jones Enterprise Media Group. All those other or sister companies of ours, and I could probably spend my whole life just working with those companies, but they make me go work with other customers. I work in a group called the Dow Jones Client Solutions Group, and what we are essentially is a consulting services arm, and we offer essentially a couple of things. We help customers with people. We have staffs of taxonomists and ontologists that come in and either build or assist customers with specific needs around controlled vocabularies. We help customers with best practices around governance, rules, etc., around managing content. And I see there's a couple of content vendors on site here today. And also we have tools. We license a couple of things. By tools meaning, content is a tool, so Dow Jones does have a lot of content that we offer out, as well as aggregated sources through the Factiva platform. And this is all basically normalized content. We do license vocabularies. We own a property called Taxonomy Warehouse, and there you can find free vocabularies as well as premium licensed vocabularies that you can use. And then we have a tool called Semantic. And Semantic is a metadata management tool. It's been in the market for about 12 years. It's been enhanced a couple of times in the last 3 years with Dow Jones, and it does provide output in RDF, ASCII. So we really are a metadata tool that enterprises start to use as they're trying to develop controlled vocabularies and start to build that framework for building semantic web applications internally. The other thing I am is I'm an evangelist, and one of the things that I run is the Data Portability Project. I'm the current chairperson and one of the co-founders of the project. It's a global organization, and we're about evangelizing open source and open standards around things like OpenID, APML, RDF, obviously microformats, RSS, OAuth, and we work with different organizations that are also working a lot of the standards organizations that are actually building out, like the W3, obviously that are very interested folks here at Semantic, but others as well. Tomorrow night, just a little plug-in, tomorrow night at 6 o'clock, the Data Portability Project is running a community group, so please do join us. We're going to talk a little bit, focus on what data portability means to the semantic web, and what the semantic web means to data portability. It should be a very interesting conversation. My colleague Chris Sod is going to be attending with us. I'm also a social creature, and you could probably find me in most social networking sites, whether it's Facebook, Twitter, etc. And that becomes more and more, and as an enterprise employee as well as a consumer, you'll start seeing sort of the social graph and the importance of that. Last but not least, I'm a geek. I like everything that's geek, and I always have. So I'm probably no different than 100% of you in this audience, right? What I'm not is a programmer, but what I do have is teams that do that. So my job at Dow Jones is essentially to find the business issue that customers are trying to resolve and get my teams or find the right software or find the right partners to do that with the customers. So coming to Semantic is a great opportunity for all of us in the room because we get to see the vendors. Like, for example, what Mark just went through with us. Most likely, we're not in that space. He's not going to call on us, so we have a great opportunity to see a lot of tools that are out there. If you are not attending Semantic, you just came through the Semantic Code. Also on Wednesday, you can go to the exhibit hall. You'll have free access to the exhibit hall, and make sure that you check some of the vendors out there. There's some great applications. So I like coming to Semantic because two things. Over the last 2 years, what I've seen is a big change of the academics turning into corporations. Yesterday on Twitter, Daniella said, called Semantic Mr. Capitalism. But that's the beauty of it. I mean, Semantic is beautiful because you are seeing these companies, large companies, trying to solve business problems. And if you're a vendor and, whether you have tools or you're selling services, it's a great opportunity to talk to those vendors and to others in the marketplace. So the way that I essentially like to define, and I do a lot of talks with customers and spend a lot of time with customers that I have for years bringing new things to them. I said that semantic web is certainly not new. We're used to the web 1.0, the document web, where you basically publish through the web and there was no interaction. Then you have Web 2.0, which is the social web, where we started to interact, obviously, with documents and with communities and with others. And now I believe that we're on the next web, which I define as the personal web. But once again, who am I? We just looked at this before, right? I'm a professional, I'm an evangelist, I'm a geek, I'm this, I'm that. How do I define, how do I get information when I need it, when it's actionable for me to do things? And these are some of the things that basically we work with customers to resolve. We're going to be learning a lot over the next 3 days of how other vendors and companies are doing that. So it's really important to think about the ability to connect, control, share, and remix data between trusted applications. And essentially, a lot of the semantic web technologies that we learned about is essentially about that, right? We can, I'm sure we could have spent 2 more hours talking to Mark about the specifics of, how the application and the different technologies that we use. But the bottom line is that we need to connect, we need to control, we need to share, we need to be able to remix that data between trusted applications. And in the enterprise, whether you're a 20-person enterprise or 150,000-person enterprise, trust is very, very important. So for the last 10 years, I've been basically doing 2 things. We've been sending a lot of data to our customers, which was great. In the beginning, they had no data, they had no access to data. And then they got too much data. They have information from us, they have information from other third-party providers, they have the free web data, they have data that they're creating internally. So information overload. Then we moved on to this era of what I call relevancy overload.